This is going to be a part 3 proving that Jesus already came back in 70 AD when the Second Temple fell, and that the devil was released when America was founded, and we are now living in a new Rome. Firstly, if you haven't watched my other parts, go watch the playlist, watch my first pinned video to see how Jesus biblically came back, and then see how the devil was released in 1776. But basically, this part is going to be talking about how Napoleon is actually representing Apollo and how he wasn't a real person. He was Lucifer being released. And before I get into this point, just remember these dates were not actually accurate. This is 1776 and after. Now, my first point connecting him to Apollo is the fact that he would wear the same crowns that all Roman emperors would wear, and Apollo himself. And we all saw him. We all know that famous painting of him uncrowning the Pope and crowning himself as emperor. As you can see, he would crown himself as emperors like Caesar. And this is the same exact thing Apollo wore. That's where the emperors got it from, because they were crowning himself the new Apollo. And as you can see at his tomb, there's a statue with the Roman eagle that he's holding up, the Roman crown, then a Roman robe or whatever, and whatever I guess the Pope would be holding, which is very satanic and makes you wonder what Catholic Roman church is now anyways. Then you can have the connection of both their mothers having basically the same name, but having the same exact story. As you can see, the goddess Hera was very jealous of Apollo's mom, and she would not give her a birthplace to have, but eventually she found refuge. And Napoleon's mom has basically the same name, and she has the same exact story because she was being persecuted by the French government and had to flee to give birth to the eventually Roman emperor, which would be her son, which is the same story as Apollo. And Apollo has many wives, but his main story is focused around 2 women, and Napoleon has 2 wives as well. So very clearly, he is representing Apollo. And my last point on him being Apollo is that he replaced the French emblem with bees, which is sacred to Apollo's sister. But now that you know that Napoleon represents Apollo, let's break this down deeper and connect them to Rome even more. So, we all know that Apollyon comes from the bottomless pit and becomes the Antichrist spirit. And if you've watched my other parts, you know that Nero is the Antichrist that started the 7-year Roman war where the Second Temple fell 3.5 years, which obviously is the 7-year tribulation and the temple falling 3.5 years into the tribulation, which is Revelation 11:2 and Daniel 9:27. So you can't disprove that. Like, Nero is the Antichrist, and if Apollyon is the Antichrist spirit, he was very clearly possessed by Apollo. Apollyon and Apollo have the same Greek root. So when John was writing Revelation, he was talking about the spirit of Apollyon taking over the man who is the number of the beast, which is Nero. And later on in his reign, Nero was depicted with this instrument. I forget what it's called, but that's the same instrument that Apollo uses. And Nero was very passionate about music, which is the same thing that Apollo is the god of. So, very clearly, Apollo is representing Lucifer. And Napoleon was not a real person. He was representing Lucifer being released in 1776. That's why he wanted to bring back Rome, because Rome was the beast before Jesus had his 1,000-year reign, which is why the Roman Empire turned Christian for 1,000 years and became the Byzantine Empire. And then it became Roman again. And Napoleon was defeated in Russia, the motherland. And what is Russia exactly the motherland of? What if Russia was the motherland of the 1,000-year reign of Jesus, which is why you get all these buildings that we can't build today. We all know they're all around the world, but Moscow has these ones where they look very weird. They have the spirals at the top like cones, while also having the other millennial reign buildings we see. So I believe Russia was definitely the motherland of the millennial reign and was definitely the most advanced of the millennial reign. So how does this connect to today? Well, on all old maps, Gog and Magog is in modern day Russia or Siberia. And those that know my previous videos know that Gog and Magog is where the battle will take place when New Jerusalem comes back and we corner it in the center of the earth and we surround it and attack it. Our magnetic north is moving to modern day Siberia. So I think it's very clearly that the millennial reign was the motherland was in Russia, and it's coming back to Russia to end this all, which is why our magnetic north is headed there, because New Jerusalem is a floating city, which I believe is our magnetic north, which is why it's rapidly floating. Because why is it floating? And why do our compasses point there? Maybe it's because that's how you found New Jerusalem when you wanted to make pilgrimage for the Feast of Tabernacles. So to me, it is very clear that we are really in the devil's time of deception, and Jesus already came, and he is coming back one last time in New Jerusalem, and then finally new heaven and earth, baby. That's all we've been waiting for. Everybody thinks that happens when the second coming happens, but it doesn't. The second coming happens, and then 1,000-year reign, and then the time of deception, and then people have to live through that. So why would you want that and not just one more prophecy to have new heaven and earth? People think I'm taking their hope away, but I'm really not. So if you're watching this video and you haven't watched my first pin video, please watch it so you understand the biblical proof, because there's a lot of it. So please, if you haven't, watch it already.